Welcome to our video lesson on making bar graphs and line graphs. You've done this in previous years, so hopefully today's lesson will be fairly easy for you to do, and we can focus on when to use the different graphs. So the first one we're going to talk about is the bar graph. And bar graphs are kind of similar to histograms, which we've already done, but there's a few key differences that I'll point out. A bar graph uses vertical, so that's up and down, or horizontal, which is straight, to show comparisons. To make a bar graph, first you have to draw and label with a title the horizontal and vertical axes. Then you choose a scale, which sometimes can be challenging. Then you need to draw bars of equal width. Just like in our histograms, where it was important that your bars are the same width, the same thing goes in bar graphs. Then the last step is to choose an appropriate title. Now remember, if you're ever in doubt, title everything, because you're not necessarily going to lose points for adding extra information to your graph, but you will lose points if you don't put a title, so you might as well just put it. We're going to make a bar graph of this information here, the calcium content, or the amount of calcium found in different foods. Calcium is something that's really good for you to eat and to have, so you might want to know how much calcium is in different foods to know how much you're getting into your body. So we're going to follow our steps. Our first step is to draw and label the horizontal and vertical axes. We'll do the horizontal axes first. And remember, the horizontal axis goes like the horizon, it's flat across the bottom. So I'm going to start it here where two bars meet and draw it across along the line until the end. And now I have my horizontal axes. Then I need my vertical axes. I'll connect it to the other one and connect it down here and draw it up. Please use a ruler for this because you need to make sure it looks nice and neat. Our next step is to we need to label them. So what is going to go along our horizontal or our x-axis, which is this one down here? What's going to go along here is our food item. And it's important how here, see how here it says 1 cup? We need to make sure we put 1 cup along the bottom of our graph too, so people know the amount of food. So I'm going to write food item, and then in parentheses, 1 cup. Then we need to label our vertical axes, or our y-axis. And our y-axis is going to have calcium in milligrams. So I'll write it along here, calcium in milligrams. Now we need to choose a scale for our axes. The most important part is that you count the number of boxes you're going to use and plan it out all ahead of time before you do anything else so that you don't have to go back and redo it. The first one we're going to look at is our x-axis, or our horizontal axis. Now we know that these are going to go along there, the names of the food. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Now, in a bar graph, it's not like a histogram where there's no spaces between the bars. In a bar graph, we need to put the same number of spaces between our bars. So first, I'm going to start by counting the spaces along our x-axis down here, the number of spaces, not the number of lines. So I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So I have a total of 28 bars, and I need to make 5. So I have a total of 28 spaces, and I need to make 5 bars, with at least 1 space in between them. So what I'm going to do is I can easily make each bar 3 spaces wide, because 3 times 5 is 15, which is a lot less than our 28, and then I can put 2 spaces in between each bar. So I'm going to plot it all out here before we draw it to make sure we have enough space. So my first bar is going to go in between those 2. Then I'm going to leave 2 spaces and put my next bar, and then 3 spaces. So the first one will be our milk, then we have yogurt, then 2 spaces, then 3, and this will be cottage cheese, 2 spaces, 3. This will be our ice cream, and finally, this will be our broccoli. The next thing I have to do on my x-axis is actually label them and write each of these food items underneath it. I'm going to pause it and do that because it's going to take me a little bit of time to write it neatly. Now I have each item labeled underneath the bars. So the first 2 is milk, then yogurt, then I put sea cheese for cottage cheese, ice cream, and then lastly broccoli. Alright, I'm done with my x-axis. Now I'm going to do my vertical axes. My vertical axis is going to show us how much calcium is going to be on each bar. I need to think about how much I want to go up by. So I need to figure out my highest number and then my lowest number. My highest number I need on there is 300. And my lowest number is 80. Now it's best if we can start this down here at 0. So again, I'm going to count the spaces, not the lines, but the spaces up the side to see how much we're going to go up by, or our scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and we could use a 21 if we needed to. So we'll say we have 20. We have 20 spaces, and we need to go up to 300. What we can do is divide 300 by 20 to see how wide we should make each square, or how much we should increase each square by. So 300 divided by 20, it goes in once. 1 times 20 is 20. Subtracting, we get 10. Then we know 20 goes into 100 5 times. So it's telling me that each little box should go up by 15. So if this was 15, then this would be 30. This would be 45, and this would be 60. This would be 75, and this would be 90. Then we would have 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, and then at my top here, 300. If you're wondering why I went up by 30s instead of by 15s, each little box is 15, but I'm not going to write that many numbers because that would really clutter up our graph, so I just decided to write it every 2 numbers so that we know. Now comes for our second last step, we need to draw our bars. For this part, I strongly recommend you use a ruler. The first bar is about milk, and our milk is 300 milligrams. So milk needs to go up all the way to the top of 300. There's a lot of calcium in milk. So I'm going to draw a bar there, and then a bar here, and a bar across the top to connect them. It's a little bit hard because I'm doing it on here, so it's not perfectly even, but your bar across the top should be straight. Then yogurt is 250, and 250 would be about right here. Oh, I didn't make it wide enough. There, it should be straight across the top, but it's really hard on here. Next one's cream cheese, which has 150. So I'm going to draw it up to 150, which is right here. Then I have ice cream, which has 200, which is a lot of calcium, which means we can eat ice cream. So this would be 195 would be this line, so it would be just above 195 on my ice cream. And then lastly, it's broccoli, which has 80. So 90 is about there, so I need to be a little bit under 90, but above 75, so it'll be kind of in the middle there. And now the very last step, but a very important step, is to add a title. So our title is calcium content. And now our graph is done. The question at the bottom says, if you have a cup of milk and a cup of broccoli, how much calcium have you had in total? So what you're going to do is use your graph to figure out how much calcium is in one and how much calcium is in another, and then add them together. So we can see from our graph that there's 300 milligrams of calcium in milk, and there is 80 milligrams in broccoli. So we add them together to get 380 milligrams. And that's it for our bar graphs. Now let's look at a line graph. A line graph shows changes in data over time. This is when you're going to use a line graph, when you're looking at something that's changing with time. They are often used in science. Our first step is to draw and label the horizontal and vertical axes. Then we're going to choose a scale, plot a point for each data item. But actually there should be another step in here. Let's cross out this 4, or we'll just put up here, step 3 5/10, or 3 1/2, is to connect each data item with a line. All right, let's start making our line graph. Step 1, draw and label horizontal and vertical axes. So I'm going to draw my vertical axes here. Now I have my vertical and horizontal axes. Next, we need to choose a scale to go along both. Well, if we look over here at our graph, first of all, we need to label them. I forgot to do that. The first one here, time, always goes along our x-axis. You can maybe remember that because time, a lowercase t, looks like that. And if you rotate it, it looks like an X. So you can remember that time would go on our x-axis, and on our y-axis would be temperature. And I'm going to put in parentheses degrees Fahrenheit. All right, then for our x-axis, we need to figure out how far apart to space our different time. So what we're going to do is we're going to count how many boxes we have again, and look at how many times we need to write along the bottom. So we need to write 6 times, and I'm going to count how many boxes we have. And we have 27 boxes along the bottom. Well, what we need to do is think, how many times can 6 evenly go into 27? Now 6 can go into 27 24 times, and 4 times 6 is 24. So that means that each of our boxes is going to be 4 apart from each other. Now, it's important though that instead of starting a little bit away like we did with our bar graph, we start right there at 0. So our first time is 8 a.m. and it's going to go there. Then 4 boxes away, 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to put our next time of 10 a.m. Then another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll put noon. Then another 4, we'll put 2 p.m. Oh, that's not on the line. Another 4, we'll put 4 p.m. And then our last one in 4 will be 6 p.m. All right, now we need to figure out our scale for our y-axis. Our temperature, our lowest temperature is 62, and our highest temperature is 81. So we need our scale along the side to go from 62 to 81. We're going to do, it's a fancy trick like the lightning bolt. We're going to put a lightning bolt down here, which means that we don't have to start this axis at 0. We can start it at 60, right here, so that we can have a better looking graph. Now you sometimes have to be careful when putting the lightning bolts because sometimes it can make your data look it misrepresents your data or not correct. So we need to be careful about it, but in this situation we can do it because all our numbers are very close together and we are nowhere near 0 at 60. Okay, now we need to figure out how much we're going to go up by. We have 18 spaces along our axes here, and again we need we have 18 spaces and we're going up to 81. So you know what? I think we could go up by 2 and be just fine. So we'll say that from 60, this is 62, so we'll make this 64. 66, 68, 70, 72, 74, 70, 76, 78, 80, and then I'm just going to extend my graph up a little bit. All right, next step. For each point on here, I'm going to plot it as a dot on our graph. So 8 a.m. is at 62, and 62 is right here, so I put a dot there. Next one is 10 a.m. we're at 70, so at 10 a.m. we're going to go up to 70. Noon is 78. Make sure it's in the middle. 2 p.m. it's at 81, that's the highest temperature of the day. That should be in the middle of our box. It's really hard to do on here, so try and make sure it's accurate on yours. 4 p.m. it's at 76. And 6 p.m. it's at 74. Last thing we're going to do is add our title. Oh, now we need to do step 3.5 and connect all our dots using a line. So use your ruler to draw a line between a straight line between each of your pots on here. And now we have a line graph. Now we need to add our title, and our title is temperatures. I'm just going to write temps throughout the day. Now the last thing we need to do is look at our question at the bottom. Based on the line graph, is the temperature likely to be greater than or less than 75 degrees at 8 p.m.? All right, 8 p.m. will be over here on our graph. Is the graph going up or going down? Our graph is heading downward, and 75 is right here. So do you think the temperature is going to be above 75 up here or below? Hopefully you can say it will be less than 75 degrees. And that's it for our lesson. I hope, oh, nope, we need to talk about selecting different types of graph. But you know what? I think we'll do this in the next lesson. That's all for now, and I'll talk to you later.